What is crack-a-lackin', gang? It's me, Ski Kid, and this is actually going to be a very different video than what I normally do. And I mainly make gaming videos, and I guess I'll still do that on the side, but I want to rebrand my channel to something that I'm more interested in. Because I mean, I play video games, but streaming them, it can get boring, I gotta say. But when it comes to what I'm gonna do, which is going to be album reviews and talking about various hip hop albums and possibly, other genres, but as of right now, it's going to be strictly hip hop. But I'm very interested in that right now, and it all really started, my hip hop, love all really started a long time ago. Listening to Eminem before I remember listening to The Real Slim Shady and Homicide with Eminem and Logic, and I remember I listened to it, and I had never listened to rap before, like at all. I never listened to it. I never thought it was good. I just never cared about it enough. But my friend, he always recommended Eminem to me, right? And I was like, all right, I'll give it a try, listen to it, and it was great. And it really started my love for rap. The only thing is, I never listened to any old rap. I would always listen to, new rap, stuff like new Lil Tecca, Lil Uzi Vert, and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, they're not bad. But I realized I need to start listening to what is considered peak rap, which is, 90s rap, people like Tupac, Nas, Wu-Tang, DMX, I mean, Biggie Smalls, all these people, right? There's so much to list off like so many people that I can list off. And this all really started me wanting to listen to older peak rap. It's considered to be. It all started when I started a stupid argument. I said Kendrick Lamar was the greatest rapper of all time, and some people may believe that, and I do have him in my top five, definitely. But he's not the best. And during this debate, I realized that I'm just saying this without knowing any of the songs that other rappers make, like old rappers. I only knew Eminem, and that's common. That's a common thing for people to do. A lot of people just kind of listen to Eminem because he is the most um what is it, most popular, I would guess. I mean, he's got the highest numbers in rap besides maybe Drake. I don't know if he passed him yet in terms of like album sales. I don't think he did. I think Eminem still has the most album sales and highest grossing profits off of his music as a whole. But I know Drake's ain't up there, but like that's common for a lot of people to listen to Eminem a lot. But that's all I knew. And so I was like, man, I mean, why I gotta start listening to like Nas and Biggie, just all these older people, I mean NWA, Ice Cube, Eazy-E, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, just all these people, and I'm like, I haven't listened to any of them besides if they were in Eminem. And I was like, all right, let me listen to an album and see how it is. And the album that I listened to was Illmatic by Nas, which is the album we are going to start with for my reviews. Being the first review on the channel, we're starting with Illmatic. So let's get into it. Alright, Illmatic, I mean, it is a great album. It is considered to be one of, if not the greatest album in all of rap. And I knew that at the time, but I didn't know anything about old rap. So I came into this pretty much just fresh-minded. I was a newbie, I didn't know anything. So I listened to this album, and I gotta say, it is what made me want to really continue listening to albums. I would say if Illmatic was a bad album and I didn't enjoy it, I would not have listened to as many as I have. And as of now, I have listened to 29 hip hop albums, most of them in the 90s, I think a couple in the 80s, maybe, and a couple in the 2010s. But if Illmatic wasn't good, I just wouldn't have listened to many albums, which is really good that this was my first album that I listened to when trying to get into 90s hip hop and peak hip hop and stuff like that, because it is so good. It is 39 minutes and 48 seconds long, made by Nas in 1994, 10 songs, and it starts off with the Genesis as the intro. It's an introduction. There's not much singing. It's really just kind of talking with a beat behind it. It's no rapping or anything like that. It's just strictly just there to start the album, and it has the New York kind of theme with it, with hearing subway trains in the back and people talking in the background. It has a very New York theme to it, which makes sense because that is the theme of this album because Nas grew up in New York, and he really kind of just talks about or raps about New York, talks about his experiences in this album, and it's just incredible to really read the lyrics as you listen and see how just amazing they are and how wisely crafted and well put together they are. It really just shows like this album, this is peak Nas. This album is peak Nas, which is crazy because this is Nas's debut album. This is his first album that he ever made, and it is incredible. I mean, there's no bad songs in it. You go with the Genesis, which is an intro. I don't count that as a song, especially since there's no talking in it, and then immediately goes into a song, New York State of Mind, which is, in my opinion, the best song in this album. And also, in my opinion, one of the best rap songs of all time. It really captures the just theme of what New York is and what it's like living in New York. It has some great verses, some great, like, the flow's amazing, the rap skills by Nas. This is the first legitimate song that Nas has in the album. So it's pretty much the first song that you hear from Nas, like the earliest song that you can hear from Nas. And it's so good. I mean the verses are so good, and the influence that this song, along with all the other ones in this album as a whole, had on other rappers is insane when you really see how many people talk back to Nas and Illmatic being their big influence and being the reason why they rap. It's crazy to think about. But after New York State of Mind, there's a bunch of other great songs. I mean, none of them are bad. I would say The World Is Yours, that's probably the second best. It's amazing. Some people think it's the best. And hey, they might be right. I like New York State of Mind better. I think it's one of the best in hip hop. I would say The World Is Yours is also probably one of the best songs in hip hop, which is crazy to have. It's already crazy to have at least one song that is considered one of the best in hip hop in an album. But when you have two, it's unheard of, and it's crazy to think this is a debut album from Nas. So The World Is Yours, Halftime, which I think is super underrated. No one says it's bad. I mean, there is no bad song in this album, but no one talks about it much. And the main songs that people talk about, New York State of Mind and The World Is Yours, I mean, they're both the best songs. But people really got to appreciate the other songs in this album because there are no bad songs. Halftime's great. Memory Lane is also a very underrated, a great song. One Love, yeah, One Love is so like iconic with the background being like one love, one. It's great. I mean, every song, One Time for Your Mind, it's good. That's probably the only song in this album where it's like, it's not bad, it's good, it's not great. That's the thing. The only like you got one song in a whole album that's good, and that's your lowest. That's your lowest rated song in the album, in my opinion, of course. Did Represent, amazing, amazing. It's just such a good song. The verses on that is amazing. The flow on all of these is great. And then after that, to end the album is It Ain't Hard to Tell, which I think is also really good. Illmatic is an amazing album, and it was a great album for me to start in my journey of looking through 90s hip hop and really getting into that. And I would have to say, with all that being considered, and just with every song being so good, and Nas really showing how good he is, and being able to see this album and recognize that this is Nas in his prime, it's great. It is so amazing to listen to, and I have a playlist where I put a lot of songs, or my favorite songs from albums that I listen to in that playlist, and I just listen to it occasionally when I don't want to listen to a whole album, you know. And getting for an album to have a song in my playlist, it's got to be a 9 to 10 out of 10 song. Illmatic alone has 1, 2, 3, 4 out of the 10 songs in Illmatic or in my playlist. I like couldn't tell you what album. I think the album tied with second, I think is what's it called? Straight Outta Compton by NWA, and it's got 3 songs in it, which is great. But Illmatic having 4, that's crazy. It might actually have 5 now. I think I have New York State of Mind, The World Is Yours, Halftime, Represent, and It Ain't Hard to Tell. So it actually has 5, which is I'm come on. All right, let's get to the actual ranking or rating of this album. I would consider this to be the second best album in hip hop, or at least my second favorite. But it is so close with number one. It's one day I think it's the best, another day I think this other album's the best, and I will talk about that album. It'll probably be the next album that I talk about in my reviews. But Illmatic, I would say, is the second best album in rap history, but I completely understand if someone would put it at a 1. I would give Illmatic by Nas, his debut album, a 10 out of 10. I mean, just overall, no weak spots in it, nothing bad. Lyrics are incredible. Flow is great. The overall theme of it is just nice and just amazing. It really captures what it's like growing up in New York. And the beats, the background, it it's New York, you know. It doesn't make you question anything. It's like as soon as this album starts, you're like, all right, I'm in New York and I'm listening to this in this rapper's mind talking about his experiences in New York. You go into this world that he lived through this album because of how great it is and the beats being spot on. It's amazing. And it's crazy to think that this album wasn't a success to start. And that's because, you know, there were a lot of things coming out. There was Snoop Dogg's album. I mean, there were Dr. Dre. There was a bunch of things coming out during that time, and Nas was just coming in. You know, this was his debut album. No one's gonna really look at it. It wasn't a success to start with, but eventually, over time, more and more people found it, and more people enjoyed it and realized, man, this is great. And then that's when it became good. That's when it became a success, and that's when it became one of the best songs or albums in hip hop history. But that's about it. Thank you all for tuning in to my first ever video. Gotta say, man, pretty good album for me to start with, right? Alright, thank you all. Peace out, Low Gang.